Hey guys, welcome back for another lecture video. This one's going to be fairly short, sweet, and to the point. We're in essentially our last major paper. After the cause and effect, the only thing really left is that you're going to be submitting revisions for all of the papers in the final revision portfolio. So anyway, we're gonna talk a little bit about cause and effect and the definition and all that good stuff. This is the closest to an argumentative paper that you are working on in ENC 1101. So I am going to talk a little bit about some different things you might need to do with the research this time around. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about what cause and effect papers typically are. They are usually somewhat argumentative or persuasive because people may not agree on what the causes or effects are. So when we look at causes, of course, we're trying to figure out what caused something or what made something happen. And some of the most common types of cause and effect writing that involves mostly cause would be trying to figure out why Americans have an obesity problem, or trying to figure out what causes a particular disease or a particular phenomenon in our culture. Someone might do a cause and effect analysis, for example, on something like cancel culture, uh, whether or not they agree with the cancel culture aspect of it, what causes that to be a thing, or what are the effects of it. So some topics will lend themselves well to both cause and effect discussions, but most of the time when we are writing a paper for a class, we're typically looking at either the causes of some phenomenon or the effects of something being done or something being enacted. So like I said, for cause, could be things like the causes of obesity, what causes people to procrastinate, what causes a particular political skirmish or a particular war in a history class, for example. In something like a criminal justice class, you might look into the causes of what are some of the common traits that we can point to in serial killers that, may create serial killers, for example. Not everybody agrees on that kind of stuff. The serial killer thing is a really interesting example there because you typically look at either nature versus nurture, and you certainly have a lot of serial killers or career criminals who had horrible childhoods, had, abuse and that sort of thing growing up. But then you also have people who come from a relatively normal, quote unquote, background. So we might look at causes in terms of both nature and nurture in something like that. In terms of effects, uh, like I said, a lot of the things you might be able to do both. The effects of serial killers on a particular society. There's been a lot of interesting things done with that in documentaries. And getting inspiration, I'm a little off track, but I just thought of it. One of the cool places to look for inspiration on cause and effect essays is in documentaries. Most documentary films end up being something related to cause and effect. So keep that in mind if you're, searching around for some good inspiration. So other things that might have effects or might be focused more on effects would be the effects of a certain type of treatment, a certain drug, a certain prevention program. One of the things that I grew up on was the Just Say No to Drugs campaign. And so there's been mixed feelings about whether or not that was an effective campaign. But so that's something that you could be looking at the effects or the outcomes of. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. Much of it is health related. I mentioned the obesity thing, but any kind of health issue, mental or physical, can make great subject matter for causes and effects. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. But I want to mention the research aspect because, like I said, this is the most argumentative, certainly in our class, this is the most argumentative paper that you guys are going to be writing, and one that you are going to be utilizing sources that are themselves not necessarily written from a purely objective position. Most of the research that you conduct for a cause and effect is going to be argumentative itself. So with that being said, you're going to be able to use all the same channels that you've been using. You are going to primarily be focused on sources from the library, and I'm going to mention a specific database to you that should be very helpful. Well, there's a couple. Because these are more argumentative topics, you may gravitate towards more of the library databases that collect argumentative work. The biggest one is Opposing Viewpoints. What is the full title of it? If you go to the databases A to Z page and look for Opposing Viewpoints, will be easy to find. Opposing Viewpoints in Context, that's the name of it. That is a great database. Now, that database is organized around argumentative topics, but it still has a search feature. So if you're looking for things on, say, the effects of diabetes or the effects of serial killers or the causes of crime in a particular area, you will be able to search for those things just like you would in any database, but they are organized around argumentative or viewpoint style topics. It's a great database for research, and there's a lot of pre-organization in it, as opposed to when you go on something like Academic Search Complete and you're just searching for terms. So I invite you to go there, go to Opposing Viewpoints, play around with it, look at some of the set up topic pages, because that might even give you some inspiration for what you want to do with this particular paper. The other one I wanted to mention, if you are looking for anything that is specific to politics, the CQ Researcher is the Congressional Quarterly Researcher, and that database is also more heavily oriented towards topics with disagreements. Now, you're not going to find a lot around health and criminal justice and that sort of stuff, but if you are gravitating towards a topic that is more historical or political in that sense, CQ Researcher might be a good one to try as well. You can also simply use the regular databases that you've been getting used to. You are going to find good information. What I would suggest is when you're searching in the general databases or even the one search where you're searching books as well, you can put in cause or effect as an additional search term. And that's going to help you target things that are much more specific to what you're looking for. So keep that in mind as well, crime and cause, or serial killers and cause. If you put that in a search as a search term, you're going to be getting things that are much more argumentative in nature. When you're organizing this paper, and you are going to be turning in a rough outline, just like you did with the comparison contrast, when you are organizing this paper, you are going to be using one of the most common types of outline strategy, and that's called order of importance. Now, here's the interesting thing about order of importance. You are the writer, so you get to decide what is the most important topic or what is the most important effect or cause. I would suggest going from least important or impactful to most important or impactful, so that your essay, your research paper ends on your strongest point or your most important point. A good example of that might be if you're talking about the causes of a particular disease, for example, like diabetes. A bad diet is one of the biggest contributing factors. So you probably want to cover that last. So you can think about that. One of the most important things when you are writing things in order of importance is that because you as the writer get to make those decisions, one of the ways that you can make this go smoothly for your readers is by using effective transitional phrases and words. So, for example, the very last point, if it is the most important point or the most serious ramification of whatever, then you can use that kind of language in the beginning of that section of your paper. So most importantly, things of that nature. Now, transitions can be tricky because we tend to, as humans, gravitate towards the same ones over and over again. But there's a lot of really good websites on how to build in transitions and maybe even some looking for some synonyms to where you're not looking, you're not using the same ones over and over again. Feel free also to reach out for help with that if you feel like you're having some trouble with your transitions. Let me know and we can certainly work on it. The other thing I would mention with that is one of the key elements of order of importance and good transitions is that you're working on building coherence, and it always makes sense to you because you're writing it. So that's a great time to have somebody else take a look at it, whether it's friend, family member, me, your classmates, whatever. The Learning Center tutors, there are a lot of resources that you can utilize for that. But that's one of the places where having another fresh set of eyes on it can help you know, oh my gosh, you've used the same transition 3 times, or I don't understand why you're putting it in this order. If that's some of the reaction that you're getting, then that's a great time to go, oh gosh, I have to be clearer about why I'm putting things in the order that I am. So with that being said, good luck. This week you're only going to be turning in your topic, your outline, and an initial bibliography. But of course, this is also a good week to ask any questions. So reach out if you need some help with the cause and effect materials. Take care, everybody.